In the dwindling light of a fading sunset, the Earth seemed particularly serene, a contrast to the chaos brewing just beyond its atmosphere. Above, hidden in the shadowy veil of space, a small, battered spacecraft drifted silently. Its hull was scarred and dented from the debris it had encountered on its desperate journey through the cosmos. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, filled with a silent desperation that clung to every surface. The craft was a makeshift home to two fugitives. Anara, an alien woman with skin that shimmered like the stars themselves, and her young daughter Lila, whose wide eyes held the brightness of a nebula. They were far from their home planet of Zalara, a world now overrun by a ruthless regime that sought to control every aspect of life. Anara, once a respected scientist, had discovered something that threatened the powers that be. And so, she had to flee, taking her daughter to the only place she believed they could be safe: Earth. Their ship was failing, systems blinking out one by one as they entered Earth's orbit. Anara knew they didn't have much time. With a trembling hand, she initiated the descent sequence, praying that the ship's battered hull would withstand Earth's atmosphere. The craft shook violently as it began to breach the exosphere, streaks of fire painting the sky as it descended toward the North American continent. Below, in a small town that prided itself on its dark skies and clear nights, Ellie, a young woman with an avid interest in astronomy, was setting up her telescope. The night was perfect for stargazing, and she was eager to lose herself in the wonders of the universe, a welcome distraction from her daily struggles and the loneliness that often accompanied her quiet life. As she adjusted her telescope, a bright streak across the sky caught her eye. It was brighter and faster than any shooting star she'd ever seen. Her heart raced as she tracked it with her telescope, quickly realizing that it was not a natural phenomenon, but a spacecraft. The craft's erratic path and visible damage suggested it was in trouble. Ellie, driven by a mix of curiosity and concern, grabbed her keys and raced toward her truck. The spacecraft's trajectory indicated it would land, or crash, near the old quarry just outside of town. The drive was quick, her truck's headlights cutting through the darkness. As she approached, the ground trembled, and a thunderous crash echoed through the night. Ellie skidded to a stop, her eyes searching through the dust and smoke. There in the middle of the quarry lay the wreckage of the spacecraft. Without a second thought, Ellie ran toward the wreckage, her mind focused only on the possibility of survivors. As she neared, the hatch popped open weakly, and a figure stumbled out. It was Anara, holding Lila close to her chest. They were visibly injured, their clothes torn and singed. "Help us, please," Anara pleaded in broken English, her voice weak but urgent. Ellie nodded, stepping forward to help them away from the smoldering remains of their ship. "Don't worry, you're safe now," she reassured them, guiding them back to her truck. As they drove away from the quarry, Ellie glanced back at the smoldering spacecraft, her mind reeling with questions. Who were these strangers? Why had they come to Earth? And what would happen next? Little did she know this was just the beginning of a journey that would not only change her life, but would also forge a bond between Earth and Zalara, tangled in the shared destiny of an Earthling and her extraterrestrial guests. Ellie's truck rumbled down the darkened back roads, the only illumination coming from the headlights cutting through the thick night. Inside, Anara clutched Lila close, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. Ellie kept her gaze forward, her mind racing as fast as her heart beat. "Where are you from?" Ellie asked, her curiosity unable to be contained. "Zalara," Anara replied, her voice a whisper. "Far beyond your solar system. We had to escape. They would have killed us." Ellie's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Who's they?" she pressed, her interest peaking. "The regime," Anara said, a shudder passing through her. "They control everything on Zalara. I discovered energy signatures they wanted hidden. We saw things no one should see." Ellie nodded, processing the weight of Anara's words. She knew they needed shelter and fast. She decided her cabin, a secluded spot nestled in the woods, would be the safest place. It was off the grid, hidden away from prying eyes, perfect for her guests to recover and stay hidden. Upon arriving, Ellie helped Anara and Lila inside. The cabin was small, rustic, filled with books and maps of the stars. Anara's eyes lingered on the celestial charts, a soft sigh escaping her. "We are scientists," she explained, seeing Ellie's gaze. "Or were. Lila is learning. Our kind. We thrive on knowledge, on understanding the universe." Ellie prepared some food, simple yet nourishing, and tended to their injuries with her modest first aid kit. As she worked, she noticed Lila's curious gaze lingering on a picture of the Milky Way. "That's our galaxy," Ellie explained, pointing to a bright spot. "We're right there." Lila's face lit up with wonder. "It's beautiful," she murmured, her fingers tracing the spiral arms of the galaxy. As the night deepened, Ellie's thoughts drifted to what Anara had said. The idea of a government that pursued those who sought knowledge was chilling. She knew they couldn't just hide. They needed a plan. Anara and Lila were not just refugees. They were bearers of potentially revolutionary knowledge. "I have some contacts," Ellie finally said, breaking the silence. "People who can help. People who believe in what you believe in. Freedom, knowledge." Anara met her gaze, hope flickering in her eyes. "Thank you, Ellie. We have information. Data that needs to be safe, to be shared with those who can use it to make a difference." Ellie nodded, a sense of resolve building within her. "We'll start first thing in the morning. Rest now." As Anara and Lila settled in, Ellie sat by the window, staring out into the vast forest that surrounded her cabin. The trees seemed to stand guard, silent sentinels in the night. In the sky, stars twinkled, each one a silent witness to the unfolding drama on the small blue planet below. She didn't know it then, but Ellie was about to dive into a world of clandestine operations and cosmic secrets, a world where the fight for knowledge was literally a fight for survival. As dawn broke, the cabin was awash in a gentle golden light, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. Ellie was already up, brewing coffee with a practiced hand, the rich aroma filling the small space. Anara emerged from the makeshift bedroom, Lila still asleep, curled under a patchwork quilt. Ellie handed Anara a steaming mug. "Did you manage to get any rest?" "A little," Anara replied, her voice still tinged with fatigue. "It's been a long time since we felt safe enough to really sleep." Ellie nodded sympathetically, then shifted to more practical concerns. "I'll contact some friends today, people who can help us protect and distribute your data." Anara's eyes sharpened with urgency. "We must be careful. The regime has eyes and ears everywhere, even on Earth." Ellie felt a chill at that. The thought of a foreign power extending its reach to Earth was more alarming than she'd anticipated. "I have secure channels. We'll use those." They spent the morning preparing. Ellie showed Anara how to use some of the encrypted devices she had stashed away, remnants from her late father who had been a bit of a conspiracy theorist, a trait Ellie now found invaluable. Anara was a quick study, her fingers flying over the keys as she absorbed the new technology. Meanwhile, Lila explored the cabin, her curiosity undampened by the recent events. She paused at a shelf filled with geodes and fossils, her fingers tracing the ancient patterns. Ellie watched her, seeing not just a frightened child, but a young mind eager to learn. By afternoon, Ellie had made contact with a trusted friend, a journalist known for her investigative work into corporate and governmental transparency. "Jenna, I need your help with something big," Ellie explained over a secure line. Jenna's voice was tinged with excitement and caution. "You know I'm always up for exposing the truth. What's up?" Ellie glanced at Anara, who nodded. She then relayed the situation, explaining Anara's escape and the data they needed to expose. Jenna was silent for a moment, processing the gravity of the situation. "This is bigger than anything I've handled before, Ellie, but I'm in. We'll need to coordinate closely. I can start putting out feelers, see who else can be trusted." "Grateful," Ellie responded. "Thanks, Jenna. I knew I could count on you." The day waned into evening, the cabin a hive of whispered strategies and hushed excitement. Ellie prepared a simple dinner, which they ate together at the small kitchen table. The simple act of sharing a meal felt both ordinary and extraordinary under the circumstances. After dinner, Anara sat down with Ellie and Jenna via a secure video call to discuss the details of the data. She explained that her research uncovered a method to harness energy from quantum fluctuations, something that could revolutionize energy consumption on Earth and beyond. But the regime wants it for military use, to further control the populace and possibly even to wage war against other planets, Anara disclosed, her face grim. Jenna's eyes were wide. This could change everything. We need to get this out in the right hands before it's too late. Plans were made, contingencies discussed. They would need to move quickly and quietly, disseminating the information through multiple channels to prevent suppression. The weight of their task was immense, but together they felt the stirrings of hope. Outside, the stars twinkled benignly down at them, the vast universe a tapestry of endless mysteries yet to be unraveled. Now more than ever before. The next morning, the sky held a brooding overcast, a stark reflection of the urgency that filled Ellie's cabin. She, Anara, and Jenna were deep in discussion, their conversation a mesh of strategy and technical jargon, as they planned the dissemination of Anara's critical data. We need to ensure this information makes it into the hands of people who can use it wisely and safeguard it against misuse, Jenna emphasized, her face serious on the laptop screen. I have contacts in several scientific communities and NGOs that stand for energy reform and anti-authoritarian practices. Anara nodded, her face set with determination. The technology must be used to help people, not enslave them. My planet suffered enough under the heel of the regime's greed. Ellie tapped away at her keyboard, setting up multiple encrypted routes for the information. I'm setting up a distributed network. It will be harder to trace and easier to maintain secrecy. We can launch from several points simultaneously. As they worked, Lila played quietly in the corner, her presence a gentle reminder of the stakes at hand. Occasionally she would look up, her eyes scanning the grown-ups, absorbing their tense expressions and the gravity of their tones. Jenna's next call was to a contact in Europe, a veteran in cybersecurity who could provide an extra layer of protection for the information they were about to leak. Carl, are you in a secure location? Good. We have a situation here that could use your expertise. The screen split as Carl's face appeared, his expression one of intrigued alertness. Explain the situation to me, he requested, his voice a deep rumble. Jenna quickly briefed him, and Carl's eyebrows rose in astonishment. Quantum fluctuations as a sustainable energy source? That's groundbreaking, and dangerous in the wrong hands. Count me in. Plans took shape with rapid precision. Carl suggested using a decentralized blockchain to record the dissemination process, ensuring transparency and an indelible proof of the original source and its intent. As afternoon gave way to evening, Ellie's cabin transformed into a command center. Maps of potential safe sites for data launches adorned the walls, and multiple computers glowed with streams of data and secure communications. The weight of their task was palpable. Ellie looked around at her companions, her friends bound together by a common cause. They were a makeshift family now, each bringing their unique skills to a mission far greater than themselves. Late into the night, they prepared the final touches on their plan. Anara uploaded the data to the secure servers they had set up, each byte encrypted and cloaked in layers of cyber protection. Ellie turned to Anara, her expression solemn yet hopeful. Once this information is out, there's no going back. Are you sure you're ready for this? Anara met her gaze, resolute. For Lila, for my people, and for all those who suffer under tyranny, I'm ready. They initiated the sequence, and the data streamed out into the ether, headed for scientists, activists, and thinkers across the globe. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling through the trees as if whispering secrets of its own. The night was no longer just a veil of darkness. It was a cover for one of the most significant acts of defiance in recent history. As they watched the digital progress bars fill, each felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The world was about to change, and they were the catalysts. As the data made its silent journey across the globe, a sense of uneasy anticipation settled over the cabin. Ellie, Anara, and Jenna monitored the transmission's progress, their eyes rarely straying from the screens that showed the spread of Anara's revolutionary findings. Initial feedback is positive, Jenna noted, scanning the incoming messages from their network. It's catching on, and the scientific community is starting to buzz with questions and excitement. However, Ellie felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. It's only a matter of time before the regime picks up on the disturbance. We should prepare for any kind of backlash. Anara agreed, her gaze steely. They will try to discredit the data, or worse, they might attempt to trace it back to us. Their fears were not unfounded. Within hours, cyber attacks began to ripple across their networks, sophisticated attempts to breach their firewalls and disrupt the dissemination process. Carl's security measures held strong, but each attack was a grim reminder of the enemy's capabilities. We need to stay one step ahead. Carl's voice crackled over the secure line. I'm deploying additional countermeasures, but I suggest you all increase your security protocols. The cabin was locked down, every digital footprint meticulously covered. Lila, sensing the tension, stayed close to her mother, her small hands often seeking Anara's for reassurance. Amidst the digital warfare, unexpected support surfaced. Messages of solidarity from other oppressed planets began to flood their inboxes, tales of similar struggles under different authoritarian regimes, all united by Anara's spark of rebellion. These messages, they're not just data points, they're voices, Ellie reflected aloud, scrolling through the heartfelt notes. Voices that refuse to be silenced. Anara's eyes filled with tears as she read a message from a distant world, thanking them for their courage. We are not alone in this fight, she murmured, her resolve strengthened by the outpouring of support. The days blurred into nights, each hour marked by small victories and new challenges. Their operation expanded, growing into a clandestine coalition of those who dared to defy the tyranny of the regime and similar powers. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with strokes of fiery orange and deep purple, a new challenge emerged. A drone, silent and unnoticed until the last moment, hovered outside the cabin. Its presence was a stark invasion, a reminder that their physical safety was as vulnerable as their digital fortitude. Ellie spotted it first, her voice sharp with alarm. We've got company. Looks like a surveillance drone. Instantly, they sprang into action. Jenna, still on the screen, directed them. Take it down if you can. I'll loop through the feeds and try to disrupt its signal. Anara, with Lila clinging to her side, watched as Ellie grabbed an old electromagnetic pulse device, another one of her father's creations stashed away for emergencies. With precise aim, she activated the device, sending a surge of electric charge into the air. The drone faltered, its systems overwhelmed by the pulse, and crashed into the forest with a muted thud. They rushed to retrieve it, ensuring no data could be salvaged by their enemies. We need to move, Ellie stated once they were back inside. It's no longer safe here. They're closing in. Plans were quickly made to relocate to a new safe house, deeper into an area with dense network scramblers and better defenses. They packed with efficient haste, each movement sharpened by the urgency of their situation. As they prepared to leave the cabin that had become their fortress, Anara looked back at the humble wooden structure nestled in the shadows of towering pines. It was more than a hideout. It had been a beacon of hope. With one last glance at the stars peeking through the night sky, they stepped out, ready to face whatever awaited them in the fight for freedom and truth. Their mission was far from over, and the night was still young. The journey to the new safe house was tense, every shadow and noise magnified under the cloak of darkness. Ellie drove through less traveled paths, her eyes constantly scanning for any signs of pursuit. Anara sat beside her, clutching Lila tightly, her face a mask of resolve mixed with worry. Upon arriving at the safe house, a hidden bunker set deep in a densely wooded area, they were greeted by a small team of trusted allies who had been part of their network since the beginning. The bunker, an old Cold War relic, had been refurbished with modern technology, making it an ideal fortress for their needs. Welcome to the new base, Carl greeted them through a secure video link, his image flickering slightly on the screen. We've upgraded the security systems, and you should be safe here for now. The bunker was cold and utilitarian, but equipped with all the necessities for their extended stay. Surveillance monitors lined one wall, displaying feeds from cameras hidden around the perimeter. Ellie set up her workstation, syncing it with the network's servers to check the status of their information spread. The data had continued to ripple outwards, sparking debates, research, and clandestine meetings all over the galaxy. As they settled in, the real impact of their work became apparent. Jenna joined them on the screen, sharing updates and reactions from across the world and beyond. Governments are starting to question their alliances with the regime. You've started a wave that can't be stopped, she reported with a mixture of awe and excitement. However, the victory was not without its cost. Reports of crackdowns on dissenters on Zalara and other affected worlds poured in, and the regime had intensified its efforts to trace the source of the upheaval. "We need to keep moving forward," Anara said firmly, her eyes scanning the latest data streams. "The more we spread the knowledge, the harder it will be for them to stomp it out." Their discussion was abruptly interrupted by an alert from the surveillance system. Ellie rushed to the monitors, her heart sinking as she saw the thermal images of a squad approaching their location. "They've found us," she stated grimly. The team sprang into action, initiating defense protocols. Despite the danger, there was a unanimous decision to stand their ground. The bunker was well equipped for such a scenario, and they were prepared to defend it. As the forces surrounded their hideout, Ellie and her allies tapped into their deepest reserves of courage. Anara prepared to broadcast a live message to their followers, explaining the situation and urging continued resistance. The confrontation was imminent. As the enemy began their assault, Ellie and her team countered with non-lethal deterrence, hoping to hold them off without escalating to violence. The bunker's defenses held strong, and the attackers found themselves unable to breach the fortified structure. Inside, Anara's broadcast went live, her voice resonant and clear, reaching across the cosmos. "This is not just a fight for Zalara, but for all who value freedom and truth. Stand with us." The battle outside raged, but so did the spread of their message. Supporters from various worlds began to respond, their collective actions creating a network of resistance that the regime could no longer ignore. Hours turned into days, and slowly, the tide began to turn. The continuous global and interstellar outcry forced the regime to retreat, reconsidering their direct assault on the bunker and the rising public dissent against their authoritarian rule. In the end, the bunker stood unbreached. Ellie, Anara, Lila, and their team emerged, not just as survivors, but as symbols of a successful defiance against tyranny. Their actions had ignited a movement that would continue to grow, fueled by the unstoppable power of shared knowledge and united purpose. The battle for freedom was far from over, but they had proven that even the smallest spark could light a fire that even the darkest forces could not extinguish. As they looked up at the stars, now symbols of infinite possibilities, they knew that their fight had changed the universe forever.